Thanks for agreeing to go through the second cycle and the first cycle. I know it's taking time away from your day and stuff like that, and I appreciate that. So thanks for that.
No problem.
Okay, so we went through a first cycle and we discussed, we had a pre-observation, observation, and then post-observation. We discussed some things. Again, both you and Ms. Ray, as strong teachers, veteran teachers, you have control of your class, you're prepared. Good rapport, your lesson aligned to the standards, all that stuff. So it's really harder for me to pull things out versus working with a younger teacher. But you agreed when we talked, and Ms. Reyes agreed the same thing, that we can all get better. I can get better at my job. You can say, and we're always trying to work to perfect our craft because it's such a hard job. So, and I appreciate you having that perspective. So, given that, I want to just take a few minutes to go over just some of the big idea things that I took away from the last session, the observation. Talk a little bit about and just focus on the two things that we both discussed were going to be areas of focus for this next session, for the next cycle. So what I have here is that just looking in terms of your class size and the mix of kids, you had 13 students, 7 girls, 6 boys. The vast majority of your kids were very engaged in your lesson. They were answering questions. They were actively involved. I have here that 10 were engaged from the very beginning to the very end. 3 students a little bit less engaged and I could tell by their lack of response to questions and their body posture and slumped on their desks and that kind of thing. As far as your teacher leadership, you had, as well as Ms. Reyes, you guys have really strong presence in the room. You're well prepared, you're a good communicator, you have really strong command of your class. And I really believe that some of that is, that really is, technique is important, but some of that can't be coached, can't be taught. And I think what you bring to the class is just, there's just an awareness of the kids, and that experience just oozes out of you when you're teaching. It's evident to someone that's sitting in the back of the room observing you. So I just want to point that out because I think it's important. As far as your activity, the objective of the lesson was to analyze, critique character actions, make inferences of their motivations, and then also connect the text to world, make that text to world connections. The activity was a shared reading activity, teacher read aloud, student read aloud, that also included literary logs and a blended learning component too. Is that correct? Okay. And we really, there was that rubric that we went through had a lot of components on there, but just pulling some things out of the standards and objectives because, and I'm going to go focus on that because when you focus on too much, it ends up not being very good. So I'm just focusing on standard and objectives and some of the things that you and I discussed. For me, your strengths that I noticed were that the objective was, the subject was aligned and sequenced well. Your learning objective connected to previous learning, and that was obvious. And the expectations were clear, and I felt moderately demanding. I didn't think that they were strongly demanding your expectations of the kids, but I think they were moderately demanding. You and I discussed, so recommendations for cycle 2, you and I had discussed that we would look at the state standards, you said to me that you thought, well, I could do that a little bit better as far as having them posted and then somehow connecting your lesson, throughout the lesson, connecting the lesson back to those standards and referencing the standards throughout the lesson. That was one. The second thing that we discussed was questioning, the level of questioning. So, and we talked, and you brought up, hey, Costa's or Bloom's level of questioning and how that would help you if you had it in front of you, or if there was a way you were mindful of it going into lesson, that would help you pick out some more high rigor type questions. And so what I did in preparation of this meeting, was I brought you I know you have this stuff, so this is not, I'm not inferring that you don't know this stuff. I know you do, but I want to make it easy on you as a way to say thank you. I don't want to create more work for you. So I just went out and I printed out Bloom's level of questions. So you have sentence stems on the left. It tells you exactly what level of questions those are, and hopefully that can help you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing I brought you, and I know you have this too. I'm not inferring that you don't, but I just want to make it easy on you. I have the 7th grade English language standards and the 8th grade language standards. And I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking. I'm going to stop talking in a second. how you're gonna, what are your thoughts as far as posting these ideas, and then what are your thoughts as far as bringing, making the, the references back to the standards during your lesson? What were your thoughts about that?
Well, what I normally do is, I obviously don't use the language of the standards because the kids would just be like,
Yeah.
what? But I just kind of put it in, a little more kid-friendly language, and I post it. I do everything like on that smart notebook stuff, and so there's always a slide that says, what are we learning today? And so we discussed that at the beginning, and that's where it would talk about, I think, are you coming tomorrow? Okay. So I think for tomorrow it's, analyzing character traits and, plot setting. That we've kind of got a whole big mashup of things going on. But I do post that there. I do have the whiteboard. I just barely got that whiteboard. I didn't have one for like a really long time, so I've kind of been really dependent on my smart board, and I don't have any whiteboard space up at the front of my room, so I always just put it on my smart board. I think what I need to maybe start doing, because I will probably, even if I wrote it on the whiteboard, like, I don't ever look at it. My kids don't ever look at it because they're just accustomed to me not using it, and I'm accustomed to not using it. So I think what I need to start doing is, like, in my notebook files, like in a slide as we're doing things, just have a slide that kind of brings it back to, this is how this is related to what we're learning today.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I was thinking.
Is there
from
any
the last
way
time.
that in a structured way you can get kids to talk about what it is, the objective is for the day? What are your thoughts about that? How could you create a routine or a structure to where you're doing it a few times during your lesson?
Like I said, I was thinking if I, just threw something in there, and I would probably do it more like a question type thing. Like, remember, this is what we're supposed to be learning today. How does what we just did apply to that? Would probably be more my style.
Gotcha.
Like I've done the thing where they, we all choral read it off of the board.
Right.
I don't really know how effective that is necessarily. But if we do something and then maybe go tie it back, well, remember this was our learning goal for today, and how does, what we just did relate back to that? And maybe if I can get them to articulate it, it'll stick a little more.
Yeah. And how frequently do you think you'll be able to do that in your next lesson?
Well, what you're going to be seeing tomorrow is going to be very chaotic and disorganized. I'm just letting you know.
All right.
I brought that over here for you to look at. It's like a tic-tac-toe board, but it's already got things on it. So basically, they have to complete 3 of these things. We finished our book. And so they have to complete 3, and they have to do it like tic-tac-toe, where it has to be diagonally up and down or across.
Okay. And what is in these boxes? What are these references?
These are the descriptions down here of all of the things that they're going to be doing. So like the yearbook entries, they have to choose 4 characters and create like yearbook pages for them, and they have to pick out like a quote. Like they do when you're a senior and you pick a quote to put underneath your picture. They have to pick a quote that they think the character would want. So this is like most of it is like character trait analysis. This one, like the poetry, they have to write, if they choose that one, they would write 3 poems that either have to do with character, setting, plot, or theme. This one is more, it's going to be broader as well, character, setting, plot, or theme, where they would do like, I think one of my kids started on it today already, and he wrote, C is for concussion because Junior got elbowed at the basketball game, and so they have to do like a whole alphabet book based on that. The word collage would be more theme focused, simply because they're cutting words out of magazines and making a collage, but they all have to relate to the theme of the book somehow, or relate to events or characters or things like that.
What's the objective of this lesson?
Well, it's like I said, it's one of those really big, broad objectives. I think the way I have it written out is oh, how did I say it? Can I go look?
Sure.
I have it pulled up on my computer. Literary text for character traits, theme, plot, and setting.
Okay. Creatively.
Yes,
Yeah.
creatively.
And I see some application here. So you have to know what you're looking for. You have to be able to analyze, and then you have to apply some of that in some ways.
Yeah.
Right. These activities
Yeah.
sort of force you. It's an. So I think that's cool. That's
So
cool.
yeah, it's really broad.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about theme, setting, plot, and all of these things throughout the book, which
Yeah.
is why we're kind of doing a big overarching thing now.
So this is sort of a concluding activity
Yeah.
to all the work you guys have put in.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you going to structure the activity? How are kids going to be seated? Are they going to be quads or pairs?
We
or
started it
tribes?
today. They're mostly in pairs. I have a couple of kids who elected to work by themselves. I don't know. In that class, I think everybody's in a pair. But I had one kid who was not here today when we started, and he more than likely won't be here tomorrow either. But if he shows up, I'll probably put him in with an already established group because he would not do